Hello and welcome to Agile in a Nutshell. I'm your host, Jonathan Rasmussen. Today we're going to take a look at the engine for getting things done on an Agile project, the mighty iteration. We'll take a look at what they are, why they're so important, and how Agile teams can use them to create valuable software. Now, when we talk about iterations, what we're really talking about is features, or more specifically, how to turn features into working software. Now, if you were to ask me what goes on during an iteration, I'd have to say everything. This is where the magic happens on an Agile project. Analysis, design, testing, coding, it all happens here. And while the activities for an Agile iteration are the same as what we'd see in a traditional waterfall project, how we go about them is a bit different. For one, we like our analysis to be just in time. Premature analysis is one of the greatest sources of waste on software projects, and I'll explain why in a minute. Secondly, our development practices have to be rock solid. That means that what we produce has to be production ready. And third, we want to test early and often on a software project. So get used to writing and executing lots of tests, starting from day one. Now, broadly speaking, we can break the delivery of an Agile iteration into three parts: make the work ready, do the work, and check the work. Let's start with making the work ready. Making the work ready means doing our homework before an iteration begins. That means we want to make sure we've done our analysis, we know what success looks like for a given story, and that we don't have too much in the way of unanswered questions. Now, there's two pillars to Agile analysis: just in time and just enough. Just enough means doing whatever it takes to make the work ready. For a small, co-located team with an on-site customer, this might mean having a card and a conversation backed up with a few well-chosen diagrams. For a larger, more distributed team, it might be having a one-pager with a short description, task breakdown, and list of acceptance criteria. This is something you and your team are going to have to decide. How much formal analysis and documentation do we need in the context of this team for this project? The thing to remember here is to start light and add weight only when necessary. The second pillar of Agile analysis is just in time. Just in time analysis means doing our deep dives just before we need them. We do this because we want to avoid waste. And premature analysis is one of the greatest sources of waste we see on any software project. Let's just think about this. What happens when you do a whole bunch of in-depth, upfront analysis and then the requirements change? Was that time well spent? Now you have to do all that analysis over again. And believe me, that's happened to me quite a bit. I once knew a young lady in Australia who lost 2 years of her life documenting a system that would never see the light of day. That's extreme, but it happens. And it happens all too often on much shorter, smaller projects too. 3 months of analysis down the drain because the customer changed their mind, the requirements changed, the priorities changed, or someone on the team just came up with a better way of doing things. It's a huge waste. Don't do it. Instead, do this. Do your analysis on the stories you'd like to develop the iteration before you need them. That way you've got them analyzed with the latest and greatest information. They'll always be up to date, and you can incorporate your latest learnings and discoveries. Now, when you're doing your homework on a story, something that's really good to do is to write down your customer's acceptance criteria on the back of the card. Ask your customer, how will you know when this is done? It's a beautiful question because it puts some rails around what we're going to develop for the story, but it also engages your customer and makes them really think about what this story needs to do. Win-win. With the work ready, we're now ready to do the work. The rubber hits the road when you code, and here we turn our customers' dreams into reality. This is where we write the software, create the graphics, write the copy, build the web page, whatever it takes to make our customers happy and show them we can deliver. We build, we show, we tweak, we show again. Lots of feedback here. The more the better. One thing to remember here is that whatever we produce, it's got to be production ready. And this is where our XP engineering practices really come in. None of this Agile stuff works without really sound software engineering practices. And that's why practices like unit testing, refactoring, continuous integration are so important. If you are doing Scrum, you've got to get the speed on these fast. If you're doing XP, you'll be okay. Just make sure your team has the knobs dialed up to 11 and they're applying these practices to the fullest. Now, once you think you've got it built, you're ready for the final step, which is to check the work. Remember those acceptance criteria we gathered back in step 1? Here we play them back for our customer to show them they pass. This part is great. It shows our customers their software is working, we prove to ourselves that we know what we're doing, and if we're lucky, we'll catch a few bugs before they ever see the light of day in production. This check the work step is really important. If you didn't get much in the way of feedback during development, you'll definitely want to get it here. This is where you and your customer might discover a better way of doing things, so don't be afraid of change. If it's small, do it then and there. If it's big, create a new story and have your customer prioritize it like anything else. All right, well that's it in a nutshell. The basic delivery mechanics for any iteration. Now there are other things we do during iterations, like retrospectives and planning, but we'll cover those next time in an episode dedicated towards iteration management. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I love hearing feedback, so please send me any ideas on how I can make these episodes better, or if you have any requests for future topics. Until next time, bye-bye.